And we're live. Welcome to the Lakers Late Night Podcast. I am Anthony Irwin. I am joined by Harrison Fagan. I am exhausted. It was a long day. I don't know. For those who do know, welcome to the show. For those who are finding out on Twitter, I'm sorry in advance. I live tweet the Dodgers games for Dodgers Nation. And when you have a Laker game going alongside a Dodger game, that makes for one cranky grandpa. So tonight's questions should be great. Harrison, how are you holding up?
I am hanging in there, man. I can't complain too much, really. I mean, in the end, we're still doing a show talking about basketball, so it's not so bad.
That is a fair point. This beats, construction or something.
Beats a real job.
It beats playing for Byron Scott. How about that?
I don't know. Have you ever been in a fist fight?
Oh man. And then of course his puppet Dave is on Time Warner making more fighting analogies, because of course you are, Dave. You do your thing. One day you'll get hired as a head coach.
If the Lakers just fought harder, they'd be the best team in the NBA if they just gave effort. Shout out to Ryan Kettlefire.
It's crazy they haven't tried that yet. They just haven't been trying hard all season.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, you really, at that point, you kind of have to question the coach, like why they aren't trying hard the whole season, despite that being their only issue, apparently.
Yeah, maybe change up the game plan from not giving a crap all year. Like that might be a decent idea to trot out there.
To be clear to everyone listening that can't see us laughing, that was sarcasm. We don't believe that that's actually the Lakers' only problem. But I want to make that clear for our iTunes listeners that are a little sarcasm challenged. Not all of you, just some.
Yeah, it happens. Yeah. Anyway, back to the game. The Lakers wind up losing this time their 10th straight game against the Clippers. They should be the JV team, but lately it's been the opposite way, unfortunately. I'm looking through, like I said, I was kind of panning back and forth between the two games. I was probably paying much closer attention to the Dodgers game than I was to the Lakers game. Oddly enough, the Dodgers won, the Lakers lost by 22. The stats are ugly. So go ahead and you go ahead and give a quick recap, and let's go ahead and get to the mailbag here as soon as we possibly can.
Okay, well, you said the stats are ugly. I don't have the stats up, but the Lakers, they lost by a lot. So they started out.
Hey,
I think
hold on. You sound. I don't know if it's showing up for everybody, but you sound like a transformer right now.
Oh, it's still showing up?
Yeah, you sound like Tron. Is anybody listening right now? Tweet at us right now if it's just me picking that up from Harrison. Try resetting your thing, and I'll go ahead and talk about the game as best I can.
Okay, talk about the game. I'll be right back.
Okay. So this was really poorly planned. Like I said, I did not spend very much time actually watching the game, but I did want to talk a little bit about, this Clarkson X-ray thing. That's really nerve-wracking. We're getting to that point in the year where it really doesn't matter that Clarkson plays all that much. So why not just call it a season? Brandon Knight is out there for the rest of the year in Phoenix. You have it all. Thaddeus Young isn't going to play in Brooklyn. Just if you get any kind of, even if you're concerned enough to take X-rays, I don't see any point in playing the guy moving forward. Harrison, you rejoining us. I was talking about the Clarkson X-ray situation.
Yeah, I think, is my mic better now?
Yep, you're good.
Okay, so my Clarkson take is they just need to wrap him in bubble wrap and put him in a cryo chamber until July. There's no point. Just it sounded like I caught the tail end of you talking, and it sounded like you would agree with me that he just needs to kind of be taken out if there's any type of issue at all.
Right. It's what do the Lakers have? 5 games left?
5 games left, which actually leads us into our first mailbag question from enterprising Twitter user @HMFagan. Anthony, do you think the Lakers can win their next 5 games and avoid setting the franchise's worst record for the 3rd consecutive season?
No.
Because that's what they need to do.
No.
They would have to win their next 5 games in order to avoid that. So they're probably not going to avoid that. I think it's probably safe to say, right?
No, the Lakers at no point, and the way they're starting these games, the first quarter it's 22-33 after one, and then again in the third quarter,
the third quarter was, I thought,
scored by the Lakers.
Yeah, the third quarter was where I thought they got killed.
Right. What I was going to say there is getting outscored by 11 in the first quarter and then outscored by 16 in the third quarter tells me that this team, when they hear their coach talk, just wants to fall asleep. Just want to like every time Byron says anything for a prolonged period of time, they're just saying, "All right, here we go, coach."
Or the starting lineup isn't a great fit, but that's and has Kobe playing matador defense in it. But yeah, and yeah.
I mean, I guess the it's not like they've at any point this year were very good, right? Which speaks a little bit more to your point about fit. But lately, I don't know. I'm not one to really analyze body language all that much. I'll leave that to Bill Simmons. But what I am watching out there is a whole bunch of who gives a damn. A whole bunch of, all right, here we go. We're going to go back to the locker room, and guess what we're going to hear when we get back to the locker room? Well, we heard the exact same message we've been hearing all year. I can't believe it hasn't worked to this point. All right, we're going to go out and play this third quarter and see how that goes. And then combine that with the chemistry issues that came about from this D'Angelo Russell fiasco. And, of course, the starters aren't going to play very well.
Well, it's funny that you say that it looks like they've given up because Byron Scott would agree with you. After the game, they asked him about this, and he said he felt about a month ago that he exhausted every approach and tactic to jumpstart the team. And then, furthermore, he thinks the team played soft and argued that many have already thought about the offseason. I love that. I love that he's openly admitted, you know what, guys? I'm out of ideas. I got nothing left. This team is very bad.
1, 2, 3, Cancun. Go ahead. What was the exact?
It's hilarious to me that he just is he's just throwing his hands up. Just, you know what? We got 5 games left. Yeah, do any of you have any ideas? He didn't actually say that, but I mean, he's about one step from it. So
he did say soft, so I guess I got to take a swig. He's incredible, man. Of water, yeah. It's clear. Yeah. It's clear. Yeah. Ever clear, but it's clear. But I'm the issue that I get from that quote is, and this is the problem that all of every team or everybody I've ever spoken to that's ever watched a Byron Scott coach team, they always come back to he just refuses to accept any blame. It's never on him, right? And when he says, yeah, they've given up, he doesn't take into account that they've given up in part because you're a terrible coach and you've been sending the same tired message all year. And eventually you just get tuned out like that. He would never think, based on the stuff he says, he would never think that way. That would never cross his mind.
He certainly doesn't like to blame himself.
Right. He's
or not even blame himself, just take responsibility at all. Like, blame yourself sounds so negative. I don't get the sense that the only stuff that I really remember him taking responsibility for very much this season is when they put in the new set and it was actually working and he wasn't playing Lou Williams and all of a sudden the team had a little bit more flow.
Mm-hmm. Right. That's taking credit for it. Right?
Yeah.
That's him. The only time he talks about himself as a coach is to accept credit for putting in a new set 63 games into a year.
Yeah, well, that's kind of my point. It's very self-serving taking of responsibility at the time.
Exactly. So, like I said, there isn't very much to talk about in a 22-point loss to the Clippers. Again, their 10th
The team's
loss to the
61st loss of the season.
Yeah. Let's go ahead and just jump right into the questions. I want to thank everybody that sent in questions to me, to Harrison, to Silver Screen and Roll, all that good stuff. Let's get right into it.
Yeah, so we won't be able to get to all of your questions, but again, we do appreciate the engagement, guys. So our first question comes to us from Sergio Palma at SergioNick02. Assuming Byron is gone, who do you guys want to see coaching the Lakers next season? And I thought that this was an interesting question because of the Luke Walton report today that he's told, or his people have told, people involved with the Knicks, which basically means he texted Phil, I want to stay in Golden State, or something like that. And you know, that he's interested in staying in Golden State, which at first glance, a lot of people would ask, well, why? Why would he want to be an assistant coach rather than take over as a head coach? But there aren't, number one, a ton of super, super appealing head jobs that don't have major questions about them. And number two, with the questions about Steve Kerr's health, he may want to hang out there and see if he ends up getting named head coach full time at some point if Steve Kerr decides to transition into a more front office role.
Right. He's just this speaks a lot like Joe Biden saying, I don't want to be president, right? And that Joe Biden doesn't want to step in, and him doing so, him being Biden doing so, actually made me want him to be president a little bit more. And I'm not going to get into the politics. I'm just saying, in general, somebody who is humble.
It's basic psychology. You want what you can't have.
Well, not even that. I'm saying somebody who is humble and reasonable enough to admit that they might not be ready for something, or that their current situation is better suited for themselves right now. That awareness, that self-awareness, if we flip it over and we use Byron Scott as the example right now, right, who is completely unself-aware, Luke Walton looks all
and
the
also
better
campaigned on Time Warner Cable Sportsnet for the Lakers job when Mike D'Antoni was fired.
Still had it. Yeah.
And essentially, essentially the whole season campaigned for it, but openly campaigned toward the end.
Right. So yes, I would say that the Luke Walton stuff is interesting. I'll also add to that, though, he could also be, or his people could be, notching up the leverage here in the situation where he is going to be a really hot commodity at the end of the season. Yeah. That goes without saying. And if he says, I'm not sure if I'm going to come out, guess what teams are going to be inclined to do? Well, what if we offer you this much? Right. And then it's a great move on Walton's people's part because of, like you said, all the psychiatry but that goes into it, and then also the leverage aspect of it. It's a really good move by Walton, and it looks like he's perfectly made for the NBA.
Yeah, well, so assuming that, I guess the original question was, assuming that Byron's gone, who would we want to see coaching the Lakers next season? I think Luke Walton would be a decent choice. I think Tom Thibodeau would be a decent choice, as a lot of people have talked about. Although with myself, and I've talked about this before, I do worry about he's going to grind the young core into dust effect, but maybe he's learned from his Chicago days. I guess like the Lakers would have to figure that out in an interview. Who else would you be interested in?
Well, I wanted to add to that, the Thibodeau thing, in that, with a player like right now, if you Google search Jahlil Okafor right now, most of the headlines that come out of there is, so-and-so thinks that he could benefit from a change of scenery, and that he'll learn from this, and then he'll get ready, be better served in his next destination. Same thing can happen with coaches, right? Bill Belichick famously was a disaster in Cleveland, went to New England, and is now the best coach the NFL has ever seen. You can go on down the line. Most of these coaches, all the coaches, obviously in the NBA, they're, their first gig wasn't NBA gigs except for, Steve Kerr and Derek Fisher. But all these guys, Phil Jackson coached multiple places before he made it to the NBA. And those experiences build him up. And hopefully Thibodeau learned from the malignant relationship that he had by the end of his time in Chicago, that, I can't ride these guys into the ground. So I would say Thibodeau would be pretty high on my list. Other guys, oh man, I just had it at the top of my head and I started rambling. Go ahead. Oh, you go ahead and talk. I'm going to try to remember this.
I mean, those are the two guys kind of at the top of my list. The thing is it's hard to judge assistant coaches because you don't know how much to credit the, different assistant coaches for different things. But it does. Dave Fizdale is a name that's interesting to me, the Miami assistant coach, because of how much credit he was given when Miami was winning. A lot of people talked about him as being really instrumental in that. So I think he's definitely someone worth an interview. Did it come to you?
Who was that you just said? Yeah,
Dave
you just
Fizdale,
I was completely okay. Yeah. Well, that's the thing is that I kind of like the idea of head assistants who, you always hear praises spoken about. Ettore Messina comes to mind as well for me in a similar situation, in what he brings to the table and how many people in San Antonio ranted
as Lakers experience too.
Exactly.
Be important to the organization for better or worse.
Here's why I couldn't remember who the exact guy was at the top of my head, but here's the guy who I want the Lakers to go after is if the Lakers take a meeting with Kevin Durant and he says X or Y coach brings me to Los Angeles, that's who the
Derek
guy
Fisher.
That I don't care. I honestly don't care. Bring me Kevin Durant because Fisher can always be fired. Like if Kevin Durant says, I want you guys to keep Byron Scott, right? Well, we can keep Byron Scott it gets the Lakers Kevin Durant. And then when Byron Scott winds up being a disaster again, you fire Byron Scott at the end of the year and you still have Kevin Durant. So it doesn't matter who the Lakers or who Kevin Durant wants. That's who the Lakers should go after. And hell or high water, make that happen. I guess it's an ambiguous answer to the question, but my answer is whoever Kevin Durant wants.
Well, so I guess while we're talking about Kevin Durant, I'll go into this question from @jbarry2794, who asks, who are our top 3 free agents this offseason that we'd be interested in? I think Kevin Durant is obviously at the top of anyone's list, but who would be number 2 for you, do you think? Putting you on the spot a little bit.
Well, I'm going pretty obviously here. Obviously Kevin Durant, because he's literally the perfect fit for the Lakers. It's not even just
he's the perfect fit for anyone.
Well, no, I mean I'm saying beyond the obvious of how talented he is. He plays a position that the Lakers don't have anybody at. Right?
Yeah.
It's that rare situation where the superstar they signed fits perfectly with what they're trying to do. So that's who, it's like, for example, if Russell Westbrook was the free agent in question, the Lakers would have to position themselves and make room for him in the rotation, right? Whereas they don't have to do that at all with Kevin Durant. So he's at the top of the list. Next on the board is Nicholas Batum for very similar reasons. Again, a wing is very, very, very they're in dire straits at that position, and they have been for quite a while. So Batum steps in. He's the defender that the Lakers could use on the perimeter. He's a smart player. I haven't heard any kind of character questions about him, no matter where he's been. People in Charlotte love him. People in Charlotte, when I brought his name up, as I brought his name up, and as people usually do with hashtag Future Laker, and got screamed at. He won't go to. He's a great guy. He's loyal. They all have that voice, by the way.
Yeah, really flattering impression of people in North Carolina.
Well, they have that one law that I won't go into, but everybody except Chris Barnwell was yelling at me in that voice. But yeah, and then thirdly, Hassan Whiteside, because of the rim protection, the relative youth, and the fact that guys like him are rarely available on the free agent market as he will be. So those are my 3 guys. How about you?
That's a pretty solid list to me. I think I might have Whiteside over Batum, even with the rumored character issues, just because of the talent there. And I I think that getting a big that's that solid defensively is more important than filling that hole in the wing. I think that the wing hole is going to be a little bit easier to fill. So and also because of the age thing, he's younger and he fits, I guess, growing forward with this young core a little bit better. So I'd probably rate Whiteside a little bit ahead of Batum, and I'm fully prepared for that to make me look stupid at some point in the next couple of years as well. Like it's a boomer bust thing.
Right. My question to you is this, just because, a lot of times we hear the, so-and-so's age or whatever, and it makes a lot of sense because the Lakers are ridiculously young. But at what point do the Lakers start saying, hey, this veteran helps us win in the short term?
Yeah,
And
that's why I'm definitely not down on Batum. I just think that there are other veterans that you can also get in addition to Whiteside that would help the team win. Maybe not as much as Batum. Maybe you could get both. They have the cap space for both. But I just have Whiteside a little bit ahead of him because I think that you can get that veteran leadership a little bit easier than you can get talent.
Right. Breaking news. The Warriors just suffered their second home loss of the season. They fall to the Minnesota Timberwolves in overtime. That's just insane. Karl Anthony Towns is going to be so damn good. I had a brief back and forth with Zach Harper, the Talk Hoops guy, and he tweeted out, shocker, but Karl Anthony Towns just won Rookie of the Month or something like that. And to me, what's crazy, and this is a really big tangent, I apologize, everybody, but what's crazy to me is this is one of the best NBA drafts that I can remember. I could make the argument ever at the, grading off of right now. And yet Karl Anthony Towns is still heads and shoulders above everybody else. That's crazy.
Like he honestly probably should have won Rookie of the Month every single month.
Yeah, it wouldn't shock me if he did. Yeah. So anyway, back to the questions. Sorry about that.
Okay, so this one comes to us from friend of the show @KDrew Lamar, and he asks, "Will there be a Lakers Twitter party when Byron gets fired?"
Oh, hell yes, they will.
I told you I was going to sneak a couple joke ones in here and get you.
I plan on waking up still, a little buzzed off of that one. I'm already on the record. I told everybody that I would buy everybody a round of drinks who does get together for Lakers Twitter. Jen is going to murder me for that one. But once Byron is gone, that's great. Oh, also, I'm going to add to that when Nick Young is released or traded. That's going to be another wild night. But yes.
I'm going to remain journalistically objective. And... Okay, but anyway,
for those who can't, because when you're watching live, you can't actually see the other person on camera. My eyes I just saw my brain for a little bit there. So yeah, go ahead and get to the next question, Mr. Journalist.
I'm big time now, man. Okay, but so if Byron is fired, that kind of brings our next question into play from actually I got this one via email from a frequent viewer of the show, Atif Hake. I hope that I'm not butchering that pronunciation of your name, but he asks, are coaches still enthusiastic for the Lakers head coaching position? Do you think that that's one of the more attractive jobs on the market as things stand right now? Should Byron Scott be fired, and should the other guys that people expect to be fired be fired?
Are the Lakers an attractive job?
Yes.
Is that what my internet must not be very good right now.
Okay. Yes. Are the Lakers an attractive job?
Right. Yeah, they're always going to be an attractive job. I've never understood this storyline that's kind of popped up in whether or not the Lakers are an attractive destination for a free agent, for a coach, whatever. Why wouldn't the Lakers? You have the LA situation. It's still the NBA's prestigious franchise. You have if whoever steps in is successful, you're going to have millions of Lakers fans across the world saying, singing your praises because you saved the Lakers. And also, you have the world's smallest shoes to fill because you're stepping in for Byron effing Scott. So it's not like you have a super high bar to fill like D'Antoni did when he took over for Phil Jackson.
Hey, man, have you ever been in a shoe fight?
Hired. Have you ever been in I have not. Who throws a shoe? Honestly. I don't know. What do you think? There's no way the Lakers are not an attractive destination, right?
Well, and then you also have the on-court stuff of like you have the young talent. You would think that you would have some job security because how much expectations are there for this team going forward? Well, okay, so you would think that you would have job security because there shouldn't be that many expectations for such a young team going forward. But that assumes that ownership is all on the same page, which actually kind of leads us into another question. So I want to give this guy credit. At Face the Pain 00 was saying that with everyone talking about free agents in the draft, what's going to happen with the front office? I think that is possibly the counter argument for the job being attractive, because you have Jim Buss, who's on this very publicly stated, it's restated that it's going to be enforced deadline to get the team back to contention by next year. If you're a coach, you're looking at that and saying, okay, like look at this roster. If they don't sign, say, Kevin Durant and like Hassan Whiteside, that's not a team that can realistically contend in next year. And so, and Al Horford too, who we somehow left off the free agent list, who is also an attractive name for sure, even though he's a little bit older. But unless they get like 2 or 3 of those huge name guys, they're not a contender next year. And so you look forward to the next year if you're a head coach. If Jim Buss is really fired, then all of a sudden the guy that's running the team, or the guy that hired you, is not running the team, and the girl that, or the woman that fired him and is running the team now, has a boyfriend who is very interested in being in the front office and is very interested in running the triangle and possibly returning to LA, according to mixed reports about what level
and very likely to add to that boyfriend situation, very likely to be not boyfriend but husband to the woman who fired the guy who
fiance. Sorry.
Well, no, they're not only are they their fiance right now, but eventually that's going to change, and he's going to be her husband. So that throws another little interesting dynamic in there.
Yeah, honeymoon's going to be a Lakers head coach press conference.
Nobody needs to see that.
So that essentially, that's my counter argument, is that, you know, you have the uncertain ownership, uncertain management situation going forward. And I think that also plays into free agents to a certain degree. Maybe not the major max guys that know that they're secure no matter what anywhere, but the smaller guys that go, hey, you know, if I sign there in a year, the guy who brought me in may not be there. And so what does that do for my living situation? How long am I going to be there? Are they going to decide to completely blow this thing up? Are they going to trade me for someone more valuable? How is this going to play out?
Right. Yeah. And those are all decent points. But I think the thing that I kind of come back to is it's the Lakers. And I know everybody who is not a Laker fan listening right now just rolled their eyes. Something fierce.
Oh, they see the back of their brain.
They might have. Did you just move to Charlotte?
Yeah, real quick. There's a lag. That's why I was lagging.
But I kind of come back to the fact that the Lakers have historically just found a way. And yes, they are missing Dr. Jerry Buss, who is one of the most influential people in the history of the NBA. I get that. And I also get that, you know, Jerry or Jim and Jeannie Buss fight like two, 3-year-old siblings who happen to be controlling a billion-dollar entity, a multi-billion-dollar entity. And that's not a good look either. But eventually, I believe it's going to get figured out. Not only because of the Lakers' past, but what the NBA has going on, or what the NBA has at stake by the Lakers being bad, right? The NBA, I would imagine, sends the occasional note to the Bus family. Hey, you guys are going to try to win at some point, right? You guys aren't going to be mired in not even mediocrity. I would imagine. I would imagine there's a little bit of league wide or league pressure coming from the top.
I mean, maybe. I don't know that the league is explicitly pressuring them. But like even Adam Silver was saying at a press conference last week that he doesn't feel like the Lakers need to be better than any other team, especially with the way that with social media, the way that it is, and how guys can kind of be a little bit more of a star anywhere. That's more possible now than it was before. And so I don't know that that's as important to the league, but yeah, I mean, it's just like the situation's kind of a mess right now. There's no clarity in what's going to happen a year from now.
Yeah, I don't think Jim will be forced out. I'll go ahead and go on the record there and say that they can stick there are loopholes to be found in that timeline. And I think they will be found, and they'll be smartly found, honestly, because Jim and Mitch have done a good job.
Well, yeah, and then putting an executive on a public 1-year deadline is just dumb anyway. I mean, their
Right.
first step this offseason needs to be like just rescinding this deadline. Why are guys going to want to sign again? If the guy that brought them in is going to possibly most likely be gone in a year, because if you hold him to that standard, then why do you want to sign there when you can sign somewhere with a little bit more stability if you have the choice between the two?
Right. All right. So next question.
Okay, so next question is, let me find a good one. So I guess while we're talking about off-season stuff and free agency, one way the guys don't really have a choice in where they go is if they're traded for. So at Ren Javier TKT asks, should they push for Jimmy Butler? How many young guys would it take to trade for him? What would you be willing to give up for Jimmy Butler? And I guess let's throw in, he didn't ask about DeMarcus Cousins, but let's throw in DeMarcus Cousins too, because he's frequently talked about as well.
I feel like those two guys would be on similar. I feel like they would demand similar asking rates, right? So
I think
we can go into both.
Are a little crazy, and they're probably going to ask for the moon.
Right. Well, in Chicago, I think there's some crazy stat out there that Chicago hasn't made a trade in something like 5 or 6 years. So
no, that's not true. They made a trade this offseason, this deadline. I'm sure that whatever is, yeah, you're probably misquoting that stat. They've made trades.
I'm looking it up. Go ahead and talk. I'm looking up the Chicago.
They traded Kirk Heinrich to Atlanta this trade deadline.
Chicago Bulls trades.
Okay, well, anyway, so while you're looking this up, I guess I'll talk. And I think the DeMarcus Cousins, the Jimmy Butler DeMarcus Cousins thing, I think either way, you don't want to give up it's the same thing that we talked about last offseason. You don't want to give up all 3 young guys. Both of those players are very, very good, and they're worth a haul. But I think my preference would be, as I've stated a lot of times before, to let the youth movement come through naturally. Just let these guys grow together. But if you're desperate to make a trade and you really want to trade for a guy to win now, which is very possible, I don't think that you give up more than 2 of the young guys. I think either one, I'd probably prefer to deal Randall and Clarkson as a package for those guys. But even those 2 players at this point, with their value at an all-time low, is not going to get it done. Right. And so I just don't know why you trade all 3 of those guys for DeMarcus Cousins and cap space, unless, like Kevin Durant says, I really want to play with DeMarcus Cousins. Go get him, and I'll sign with you guys. Then maybe you think about that being worth it. But otherwise, I don't know why that's a worthy scenario. Or the same thing for Jimmy Butler. I just don't know why that's worth it, giving up your whole youth movement for one guy that is not going to be enough to get you over the top by himself, and is towards the midpoint of his career.
All right, so I have the Chicago thing.
Okay.
going back to 2012, because that's as far as I really wanted to look. Going back to 2012, they've only made 3 total trades. One player was involved this year, so I think at the time that I heard it, it was before Heinrich was traded. So that would mean at the time it was only 2 total trades. The players involved in 2012, they traded Kyle Korver to Atlanta. In 2014, the guys that they traded were nobody important. They traded Greg Smith and Anthony Randolph. So nothing
How
really
dare
there.
you?
And
That
then
is NBA legend Anthony Randolph. Timberwolves fan favorite Anthony Randolph.
he shares my name, so he's my bud. And then again, this
Well,
year,
not
they
really.
like you said, they not at all. Shouts to Anthony Randolph. But yes, like you said, they traded Kyle, or Kirk Heinrich this year. So the 3 trades that Chicago has ever made or have ever made involve not a single starting caliber player at the time of the trade. I think maybe Kyle Korver was starting, maybe, but I feel like even at the time he wasn't.
Yeah, I don't remember. I think he was starting for them. I don't know though.
The point that I'm making here is that Sacramento
they don't like to trade.
Is going to be true. Yeah, the Sacramento is not going to be interested in trading DeMarcus Cousins because you have a brand new owner, and the last thing a brand new owner wants to do is come in and make that his imprint, that he's going to trade away probably the most talented player that they've had in quite a while, like quite some time. And then Chicago just flat out doesn't trade. So if the Lakers want to get either of those 2 guys, DeMarcus Cousins or Jimmy Butler, they probably will not be able to without giving up a incredible haul. It would have to.
Yeah,
it would
have to give up those 3 guys and probably something else too.
Right, and it's just at that point, if that trade doesn't work out, you set your if DeMarcus Cousins gets hurt or Jimmy Butler gets hurt, that trade sets you back a decade.
Yeah. No, it just doesn't make sense for where the franchise is at to mortgage the entire future for one guy.
Right, exactly. So I guess I'll make this a blanket statement, and I think I've said this already, but I am anti any trade involving the Lakers' young guys. Any trade, obviously, if Cleveland wants to offer LeBron James for Jordan Clarkson, then okay, go ahead and make that deal. But barring anything stupid,
any realistic,
I am anti-trading. Yeah, I am anti-making any. I am against making any realistic trade of these kids because we don't really know what they're capable of. Having played for Byron bleeping Scott, there's no way to know. Hey, can D'Angelo Russell and Jordan Clarkson be the backcourt of the future? We don't know, right? We have no idea because we have Byron Scott. We think they can be, and the Lakers hope they can be. But Byron Scott has made it clear that, or has actively hurt their case as these centerpieces moving forward, given his antics not only on but more importantly almost off the court. So yeah, I'll go ahead and pass on Jimmy Butler and DeMarcus Cousins because I don't even know if either of those 2 guys makes you an immediate contender.
No, I don't think either of them by themselves does. I think that we've seen that with Chicago and Sacramento.
Yeah, they're nice guys, but I don't think neither DeMarcus Cousins or Jimmy Butler will be the best player on a championship team.
Yeah. Or at least not a really, really deep championship team.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
All right.
So,
do we have more time? We have time for more questions?
We're running a little long, but let's try and hit. I want to hit 4 more that are pretty quick, so we can hit these quickly. So, Anthony, what's your favorite Byron quote?
What's my favorite?
And this is from @DJoker2418.
Yeah, I think that's pronounced Joker.
Yeah, it might be.
Like the tennis player. But anyway, I would say that the fist fight quote was just incredible. That's just on a whole nother level of just reading into basketball or coaching for dummies and pulling that out of your body. Like that's just
it kind of takes
it's not going to get any better than that.
It kind of takes you to tonight where he was like, I've tried all the tactical adjustments I can make. Did you hear me ask them if they had been in a fist fight?
Next game, I may actually challenge him to a fist fight. Bring it on, Clarkson. Come on, you know.
I asked Meta, and he showed me this awesome video of him fighting with like 8,000 people. It was the manliest thing I've ever seen.
I didn't even think of that. How did I miss that? He asked the Lakers if they've ever been in a fight with Ron Artest sitting in the room.
Meta just got up. He's like, my agent said I'm not supposed to talk about this.
Oh my God.
I mean, like Roy Hibbert got slapped in the face by Booker on Utah in the preseason. I don't know if that counts. It's not a fist fight. That's a slap fight. So
I'm dying. These are actual tears, guys. Whew.
Okay, well, so I'll go a little out of the box for mine. This is from last year, but from the invaluable Baxter Holmes in his Twitter account. How does Byron deal with losses? Quote, go home and beat the dog. And end quote. Then he immediately backtracked, quote, I don't even have a dog, end quote.
But if I did, I would beat that shit out of him.
So that was the equivalent of saying, like, I want to punch a dog. Just kidding, Tita. He caught himself. He caught himself on that one. You can't. He said he doesn't have a dog, so there's nothing wrong with that statement.
Just picture the Lakers' poor PR people. Just when he says something like that, just.
Yeah, I really wish I'd been in the room for that one. It's the media. Do you laugh at that? I don't know. We need to find video of this press conference and go back. Or do you just like sit there? Like, did the whole air get sucked out of the room where they're just like, oh my God, did he really just?
This guy's a monster. All right, I have a question for you, really, really quickly, but
okay.
To a certain extent, will this be a 5-second question because of how hard I was just laughing at Byron saying that with our test in the room. But to a certain extent, will you miss Byron for moments like that?
It's hard because
he makes your job really easy.
I mean, at times it is amusing, but what comes with it just isn't worth it. So I guess not really. I mean, when they have their next head coach that just comes in and says all the right things, it'll be like a little, like we won't get to do our quote tweet fest where everybody just reacts to things that the coach says, which, you know, has gone a little overboard this year, if we're being honest with people, certain people. And, but so no, I don't think that I'll miss it. I guess maybe sometimes. I don't know. It's conflicting. It is amusing sometimes when he comes through with one of these things, and it's like, oh, mark that down in Byron quote bingo. Shout out to @BLSS blog who actually came out with a Byron quote bingo, which I'm curious if anybody's hit bingo yet on that one. You got to be close. Gave up on making tactical adjustments. You can check it off tonight. Okay, so we'll get into the next question. Also about coaching. Very popular topic tonight. But this is from friend of the show, @NateP_SBN, Nate Parham, over at Golden State of Mine. And he asked, who's going to get another job first? Mike Brown, Kurt Rambis, Mark Jackson, or Byron Scott?
Mark Jackson.
Yeah, I think so too. Because someone's going to convince themselves that he grew that Golden State roster into what it was.
Right. The thing with Rambis is he has one destination.
He's getting that contract extension if reports from tonight are true.
Right. So Rambis has a buddy in a really high position that could keep him employed that Jackson or Scott does not have. Was there a fourth coach? Who was the fourth coach?
Mike Brown.
Mike Brown's never going to be employed again. Although Mike Brown might actually be the greatest interviewee.
I am convinced that guy could walk into any job and get it based off of an interview.
Yeah, we're gonna be Mike Brown 2022 or something like that, 2024. So
yeah, Mike Brown for president.
No, I would say Mark Jackson. I honestly, was a couple things too with Mark Jackson. It was somewhat surprising that he was fired in the first place, right? I remember sitting there watching Twitter when that happened, just like, wow, that's a shocker, right? And like you said, he was
light years ahead of everyone else organizationally. They knew.
I saw Tom Haberstroh tweeted out just a second ago that since they said they're light years ahead of everybody else, they're 1-2. So that's pretty phenomenal. That's pretty great stuff. But yes,
the players are trying to show the owner this is all us.
That's one way to look at it.
Silent rebellion.
But the Mark Jackson, I mean, you see it all the time nowadays, right? Where X or Y coaching spot comes available. Mark Jackson's still on ESPN, which always helps coaches get rehired. So yes, I could see him. It wouldn't shock me at all. I wouldn't like it, but it wouldn't shock me at all to see Jackson coach the Lakers next year.
I don't even know if he's the worst hire for the Lakers. Like he's better than Byron Scott, I think, demonstrably.
Right. So I would say
he's definitely not in my top candidates, but he'd be better.
Mm-hmm.
And it gets him off ESPN, added bonus. Okay, so 2 more questions. And so second to last one, this is from Tej Singh at WCTEJ. And he asks, I think this one's mostly for you, Anthony, but he says, am I a bad human being if I wish Roy would get the flu and miss the rest of the season?
No, because I want the same thing. And I don't want to be a terrible human being. But but not like a terrible flu, just like something that just nags at him and stuff, and he can't.
I like it. I think Darius suggested it today, and I'm totally on this train. Why not just shut him down instead of Brandon Bass? I guess because he's kind of has more to lose in free agency this offseason. They don't want to be seen as like, just demoting him or whatever. I don't know, but Brandon Bass has been better in every phase of the game.
What's the Brandon Bass isn't under contract next year, right?
He has a player option that he will in all likelihood exercise. I honestly don't know how he could play better this year, other than that really rough start while he learned how to play center.
Right. If any other team out there paying attention, he you get the Laker role player bump that everybody gets, and then any team out there that saw his level of professionalism would want him around in a winning environment. So I would say, yeah, there's no reason. The Lakers can get by with Tarek Black. They can get by with Larry Nance Jr. at the 5, and then just run and gun for the next 6 games, so long as Kobe's corpse isn't on the court, and be fun to watch. I don't think that'd be a terrible way to go about this.
Yeah, I definitely don't want him to get sick, but I wouldn't mind if he got shut down. But it's not going to happen, and so it's all kind of a moot point anyway. Yeah. So actually,
let's go.
I lied. 2 more questions. Really quick. From Wait for Dusk, at Wait for Dusk, have you ever been in a fist fight?
Have I?
Yeah. I think we answered this last show. We have both in our younger, angrier years kind of been in fist fights.
Yes, I've been in many. I used to box semi-professionally, so does that count?
Wait, are you serious?
Yeah, I used to box.
Learning new things every day. We're gonna have to talk about this off air at some point. But
I decided to go. I took the interesting route of going from being a semi-professional boxer to now looking like a punching bag. That's the way. That's the way my life.
I'm so glad I was out of coffee for that one. That would have been goodbye, computer monitor.
So yes, but yeah, I've been in. I'd like to know how many people on Twitter or whatever haven't been in a fight. That's part of the stupidity of Byron's question is like when you're a kid, of course you got in a fight. Especially most of the people that I follow on social media are athletes. Stuff happened in practice. Stuff happened in whether it was a pickup game when we were all super immature in our teens. anybody who with brothers or whatever, who hasn't been in one? Which makes it so dumb that Byron would ask anybody if they haven't been one. But
yeah, so you know, as SB Nation's resident company man, I'm required to remind you that Silver Screen and Roll does not endorse you getting into a fist fight, and that was Anthony asking for that question on Twitter. I don't need to know which ones of you have been in a fist fight. That's okay. You can don't at me. So last question from Kyle Hartwick at Kyle J Hartwick. You guys should follow him. He's funny. So he asks, when will your blood feud be resolved, and can we watch the duel of you and me? And so I'm going to answer this really quick. Anthony and I joke around about not liking each other, but the only reason I'm answering this question is because I want to embarrass him. Anthony is honestly like the older brother that I've never had. I love this dude. You know, you're the greatest. And I'm glad. And, you know, while this season's been miserable, there's nobody that I'd rather be doing a podcast with, except you, Bill Simmons. If you're listening, I will gladly leave Anthony.
It's weird. The coincidence here is impossible to overlook. I just said that I used to box semi-professionally, and now you say you like me.
Yeah. I'm a little bit more scared now. So I'm backing off.
No, to be serious about this, it's like I said, it's been really cool for those of you who, I think, was it last year, midway through last year, right? Where I think either I followed you or you followed me or whatever. Or I was in Silver Screen and Rolls mentions, and I think you and I both might have had 300-ish followers or something. You know, really. Yeah. and this year this year's been cool. Obviously, I don't equate, you know, success with Twitter following, but to see you get to go to games and to see you know, you did your post with about did you do the Mark Stein one already too?
Mark Stein was featured in my feature story on Larry Kuhn. I interviewed him for that because they're friends.
Right. So yeah, the Larry Kuhn one is really cool to see, and then, you know, you did the Mike Tirico thing. So it's for me, it's been really cool to watch you grow up in this role, and you know, deservedly build the following that you have this year. And yeah, we poke fun at each other because we care. Yeah. That's kind of how I look at it.
It's all love.
All right. We got to answer another question so we don't end all wishy-washy.
Oh, well, I already closed my questions tab.
All right. I got it. I got one because I promised her I would answer this. Yes. At Rowan asked us if Messi could fix the Lakers. And while I know the Lakers are in a Messi situation, Leonardo or Leo, however you wanna say it, could fix anything. That guy is a wizard. And I got to, you know, squeeze in a pun, which she'll like even more. So Rowan, or Ro, as I know you on Twitter, there you go. Messi should be the Lakers' next coach.
Would you trade all of the young Lakers for him?
Sorry, one more time.
Would you trade all of the young Lakers for him?
Yeah, no, you sound like Tron. I think it's on my end.
Yeah, it's on your end. Okay. Well, anyway, we'll wrap up the podcast now so that you don't have to listen to my robotic ass.
I don't know what you're saying. We're gonna go ahead and end it. We're gonna go ahead and end this thing because I can't understand what Harrison is saying. So this was a lot of fun. Thank you everybody for the questions. This was great. I'd like to do this more. We'll do this in the off season. Make sure you send in questions, not just about the Lakers too. Make sure you send in stuff. I'll answer anything. Why not? So send in all your stuff there. Thank you everybody for following us. Thank you everybody for listening. Thank you everybody. I was going through the podcast numbers earlier today, and they're pretty damn good. So this has been great. This season has sucked, but I'm just really happy that we have this platform and people enjoy the show. So there you go.
Yeah, no, we appreciate all of you, and this year has been, you know, great. Other than the basketball that we've had to watch.
I don't know what he's saying.
Harold is doing the slides.